Oh, hello, and welcome to Audente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have God's Mouth. So, God's Mouth is an oldie. Like, it's categorized as a historical archived creepypasta on the creepypasta wiki. And I've heard about it since like the early days of creepypasta, and I'm shocked that we've never done it. But it's by it's credited to Abracadaver on the creepypasta wiki site, and we'll just kind of dive into this rundown. A couple go up to a cave called God's Mouth. They are Nathan and Margaret. Nathan is the narrator. Nathan thought it would be a great idea to go spelunking with his girlfriend / spouse? Even though
sister, could be anything.
Yeah. Even though A, she doesn't care for caving, and B, they are so ill prepared to be spelunking. They ultimately get lost in the cave for hours. Weird. And find that the walls close in at spots, and the rocks are strangely warm and comforting. Again, in the pitch darkness, and in a panic, Nathan abandons Margaret to search ahead for an exit, and loses where she was. Nathan then hears Margaret screaming and attempts to find her, only to discover that the walls have closed in on him from all sides. As they begin closing in for the kill, for what seems like hours, Nathan, lying in despair on the ground, sees where his dying flashlight is pointing and rolls that last sand check before the walls crush him. The rock walls that are currently chewing the remains of Margaret. And then darkness. Fin. So, yeah, that's the rundown for the story. It's pretty succinct, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, real talk, guys. Al dente, no.
It's a different show.
Everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions at this point, and I've got a couple. Not as many as I thought I would, but I'm sure you guys will fill in the gap. I sighed and turned my flashlight on, period. I pointed it into the cave, period. Black, period. God's Mouth, period. This seemed like...
Sorry. It just sounds
You're
so
not
funny
wrong.
when you say it like that. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong. This seemed like this seemed like the antithesis of a Holy Spirit. Now, the reason I added the period is because just to kind of show like where the breaks are for all of those little sentences. And I'm usually not the one to like poke at those or poke at short sentences for like that are, I feel they're used, or that writers use them for expletives or for emphasis on something. But even this one was just like, no, I got to rework this entire series of sentences. So this is what I got. So this is how I reworked it. I sighed and turned my flashlight on, pointing it into the cave, period. Nothing but black inside God's Mouth, which seemed the antithesis of a Holy Spirit, period. Like, I smashed them together into two sentences, and they feel a lot more coherent, and even like not like flow is sometimes a bad term, but like it reads a little bit more coherently.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, the way it is, it's almost like jot form in a way.
Like,
these are all the things I want to say, but they're not connected.
Yeah, and again, I get why an author does this. Is because like they're trying to like point like at a poignant thing. Like, I pointed into the cave, black, God's mouth. This seemed like the antithesis of a Holy Spirit. Like, I can get that, but at the same time, it's sometimes silly, and you shouldn't do it all the time.
You know what the real fix for this is? I pointed it into the cave. Black. Period. Like, I pointed into the cave. Period. Black. Period. God's mouth. Ellipses. This seemed like the antithesis. Because it'd be like, God's mouth.
That would
this
also
seemed like the antithesis. Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely work for sure. Like an ellipses after God's mouth. Because, like, yeah, it's like we're getting all the information we need. It's just, it's kind of disjointed. Like, we need, exactly. This seems like the antithesis to a Holy Spirit, like in question mark, maybe.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, yeah, there's multiple ways you could kind of retool this series of sentences, so that you don't have a couple of assholes online commenting and editing your work or criticizing your word your sentence structure.
As always, the views and opinions on this show are our own, and it's just whether or not we ourselves would appreciate it one way or another. It's not us saying you need to change it, or we're the right way, you're the wrong way. This is just our opinion.
Yes, very well said. So, on to my last one, my only other one. I tried to look at her and make nonverbal communication as explicit as possible until I realized that we were lost inky blackness of the mouth. I think you're missing some words here. So I think it's supposed to be like...
Yeah, I got that one too.
Yeah. Until I realized that we were lost in the inky blackness of the mouth. Also, like, maybe, like, I don't know. I feel like... I understand that the cave's called God's mouth, and, like, it brought up repeatedly, so we know what the mouth is, but I still feel like it just should be, like, of the cave. But... I don't know. That one's a nitpick. That little like mouth cave thing, that's a nitpick. But the in the inky blackness is the correction that should probably be done there.
Mine was corrected to the inky blackness.
Lost to the... Oh, that's a good one too. Actually, I like that.
Yeah.
Lost to the inky blackness. Yeah.
My Grimmer in Yellow on this segment is also a little bit more too, because I didn't fully understand what was being described, because it's saying like whether or not it's saying they are lost, like he doesn't know where he is, or he's just trying to explain that it's so dark there that they can't even see each other, like even with the flashlight.
Yeah, I actually have that in my actual thoughts a little bit, like about like the flashlight and stuff like that, because like it feels like the story kind of haphazardly encapsulates like early on it kind of haphazardly encapsulates the feeling of being claustrophobic in a cave because of how little description we have of the cave outside of like and like they're them like kind of just like they're feeling with the rock, but they have a flashlight, so it's like it feels like they're not describing enough of the cave for the amount of light that they have. Like even the amount of light they have from this flashlight should be giving them enough more details of what's inside the cave, unless there's something supernatural about the darkness.
Yep. And I reworded this 2 different ways depending on how it's actually meant to be portrayed, and I'm not sure which is accurate.
Okay. Well, let's hear it.
I tried to look at her and make nonverbal communication as explicit as possible until I realized that I couldn't see her, even assisted by the flashlight. We were lost to the inky blackness of the mouth. So
I really love that, actually.
That like one's basically saying, like, that is hammering home that you can't see each other at all.
Yeah, it's like there is
that.
Yeah, like there is a visceral miasma of darkness. Like
yes.
there's a fog of war in your vision right now.
Yeah, like he should be going nuts at this point. Be like, oh, why can't I see her? I have a freaking flashlight. It works. It should be working.
Yeah. Like
and the other way.
Yeah, sorry,
go ahead.
I was just like, yeah, I'm kind of reminded of like in the manga Shaman King, there's a cave, a test that one of the main characters goes into to like test, like to kind of like strip themselves of their like physical form or like their physical senses, so they can only rely on the spiritual. And it's like that kind of inky blackness and like darkness where they're basically going into like a sensory deprivation tank, but it's a cave they're walking into. And that's kind of what this feels like. It's like yeah, they've suddenly lost even though they have the flashlight, their visual senses are so like muted or so like diffused because of the atmosphere in the cave.
Mm-hmm. And the other way I wrote it is I looked at her and made nonverbal communication as explicit as possible until I realized that we were lost within the inky blackness of the mouth. So that's basically saying that he looked at her and he sees her fine, like the flashlight works and everything, but in looking at her and doing nonverbal communication and stuff, he lost where he was going. And then it's simply a mundane, oh no, I'm lost.
Yeah, which is also very possible in cave system. Like, I mean, hell, like there are people who have gone missing and gone lost in the catacombs of France. And those are basically just like man-made, like ancient man-made caves.
Yeah. Because like biggest confusing thing for me about all this is the second word. I tried to look at her.
Yeah.
Like if he's trying to look at her, it sounds like he's not succeeding. But if he's actually able to look at her, it'd be I looked at her and made nonverbal communication. So did he look or did he not? You know?
Yeah, no, I get you.
That's all I got on that part.
Okay, and that is, we'll tag that actual thought stuff for a little later, because I am done my grammar inquisition. I'm going to hand over to Mikey. The E stands for evil.
Well, let's see here. I have an it story because there was no conjunction issues.
Wait, what? I knew it was bound to happen. All right. And now, an it story with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
It was more of a feeling that was sort of hard to put my finger on or give a name, but I could settle for a nice content. It seemed to stretch endlessly, no matter how I positioned my flashlight. It seemed that even amongst the pointed teeth of God, I could lay down and rest there forever. It was comfortable. It seemed to be getting narrower. It sounded like muffled static from a television. It seemed to be getting even warmer now. Its last fading beams of light pointed at something not far away from my face. Finn.
Wow. It was the cave. Yup. And is that all your grammar inquisition?
Yes.
No. For those that don't, all I have. Sorry.
Wow. For those that don't know, we do it stories and conjunction junctions for highlighting all of the sentences that start with words they shouldn't be starting with, because there are always better options than it, ands, and buts.
Yes. Also, yeah, it can sometimes be confusing for trying to differentiate like what is the subject of a sentence.
Yeah.
Especially if you are like us and take them separately from the story, so you don't get any
them all out of context.
Yeah, as Mikey has been wanting to do for a hot minute on our show. I mean, that first one was like glorious; like it came at full force.
Yeah,
I will never not love that
squirrel.
One. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, then I guess it's on to the grammar in yellow.
Mm-hmm. I just realized that Mikey prophesized that new movie that came out recently, Ulysses and something. What's it called? Damn it.
What?
It was a good movie I watched recently. It was Flora and Ulysses. It's a Disney original movie of a squirrel that's a superhero.
Oh God.
It's adorable.
Does it come at its foes at full force?
I mean, sure. I don't remember him punching people, but I don't know. He like flies around and does things. Regardless, I have one left. The quote is, I forget who's saying this, but regardless, I mean is in quotations. I began again, scratching on my chin. But I mean ends with a comma, I feel like it should be an ellipses because it straight up says that he's beginning a sentence, which means there's more that should be following.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm you guys know I'm a proponent of the ellipses on the show, even when if it's a detriment to myself. But yeah, no, I think that should have it should have and then it putters out with the ellipses because that's usually why people use the ellipses.
Yes, and that's all I got.
Okay, all right, then on to actual thoughts. So taking that tag off again. So yeah, I'm gonna start with this one here. Mine. So yeah, we're gonna start with this quote here. This is cave air, not fresh air. This air is practically fermenting. Plus, isn't this illegal? Can we please just leave? We both stood there. The only sound that could be heard was the electricity in the air being stifled and smothered by the damp atmosphere. Finally, I began to walk. I didn't hear Margaret follow me, but I kept moving forward. Then, Nathan, she said, stop, please stop. So I stopped. And this is my comments to this. I'm beginning to think Nathan might be a bad boyfriend, spouse, friend. Like based on what context we get, about their relationship status, I'm assuming they are close. They are in some kind of a relationship. I'm beginning to think he's kind of a bad person. Also, not exactly the smartest person, given what happens next. And then my next one is a quote here. Somehow, in the confusion of our argument, I'd forgotten which way we had been moving. Idiot. I thought to myself, I should have brought a goddamn rope or something to trail from the entrance of the cave. I had to take action, so without much thought, I turned 180 degrees and said, this way. And to that I say, case in point. Not exactly the smartest person to oh yeah, let's go on our vacation to this cave that clearly says keep out and there's danger signs everywhere, and let's not bring any equipment whatsoever, and then I'm going to just ignore what your opinion is and just keep moving forward, and then when you until you a scared person or a panicked person in this situation come to my side of things. It just seems like a bad person all around. But Mikey, sorry, you're trying to say something.
He's basically the kind of person that gives all guys a bad name. Yes.
Yeah.
Please continue, Mikey.
Well, yeah, I have a note here about this conversation that they have. She's basically complaining that she would rather have gone to the beach instead. But at this point, they're already inside the cave. So it's basically like going to an amusement park, getting in the line for the ride, and then complaining about being this isn't a good idea while you're on the ride and it's starting to go up.
Yeah, it's I hate this. It's like Nathan, I'm afraid of heights. Why do we go on this ride? Yeah,
so what you're saying is she should have complained way earlier.
Yeah. So in my view of things, she's at fault for not bringing this up sooner.
Dare you? I kind of interpreted it it is the children who are wrong. To use a relatively recent meme. But no, I kind of see it as Nathan basically just is very self-centered and didn't think to ask his friend, his mutual friend.
Just call her girlfriend. We don't know.
Yeah, girlfriend. Yeah. What she thought? He just oh, I know she wanted fresh air, so I'm going to spoil her by going out to this cave thing because I love caving. So she'll love it too.
It counts.
Exactly. It's Nietzsche. That's Nietzsche right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it is odd that she chose while they're in the cave to do this, but maybe he just wasn't listening the rest of the trip. Like, and maybe she was trying to be like, maybe she was being passive aggressive about it. But again, like we kind of get just dropped into in media res on the story, so we're kind of meant to assume certain things in the story.
The way I saw it was like she's like going along with it, like okay, whatever, we'll go into a cave, whatever. Like, because I'm just being nice. And then they get to the cave, and she's like, okay, I guess I'll go in. I said I would. And then as soon as she gets in there, she's like, no, I want to go home.
It's like, I just realized I am claustrophobic. It's like when I went to Wonderland with my friend, and we decided to go on the that big swing of the century, but like it goes up higher than the mountain, than Wonder Mountain. and I got up there, I was like, I've made a horrible mistake. I am incredibly afraid of heights, and I definitely blacked out while I was up there, because it was just like, I don't like this at all. I bet
you didn't even wake up with a popsicle stick in your mouth.
No.
Oh, wow.
I just woke up bare knuckled to the handles as I looked out at the horizon and kept worrying about the belt snapping and me going flying like hundreds of feet.
Yeah.
That was not fun. Yeah, that's definitely a situation. I guess it's relatable. From the stories, like to go along with something and then realize when you get there, it's like, I've made a horrible mistake. So yeah, I suppose it's wow, do we really just like propose all three options? Like all three of us have a different option on this?
Pretty much.
Nice. Keeping in tune with our show. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll move on to the next one here.
Yep.
And this one is okay. Yes, this is in regards to like the flashlight stuff. So I began to work my way along the wall, feeling it as I went, shining the flashlight in front of me. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain on my head as the ceiling of God's mouth met with my scalp. Ow, shit, I shouted. Oh, Nathan, are you okay? Margaret asked. She seemed on the verge of panic now. I'm fine, I said. Please, calm down. We'll get out of here soon, I promise. I started again, pointing my flashlight upwards now to see the ceiling above. So that seemed like that seems like the narrowest field flashlight I've ever heard. Like it's not a laser pointer, but it's like one of those shitty, like cheap dollar store mechanic flashlights you can get. Like again, unless and at this point in the story, I hadn't gotten to the part where like, okay, there's something supernatural afoot. So it's like I am curious if this if it is that like he just is Nathan and being incompetent and bought like a really cheap ass flashlight, or if it's not because there is some kind of like atmosphere or ambient like dampening field in the air that is creating a supernaturally dark environment. Because as we find out, this thing, like this cave, is some kind of thing that's eating them. So like maybe it's part of the trap. And even that that quote, it kind of hints that, because like he's moving along feeling the rocks, and then like the ceiling drops down, and I wonder if it didn't just like drop down while they were moving, like and like not like naturally, but like it actually like lowered itself as they were walking, like actively, because as we find out, they start heading back the other way, and the tunnel gets smaller than they remember. And then the entrapment happens, and so yeah, it turns out there's some kind of like they're inside of a rock monster.
Entrapment.
Entrapment. Wow, that is an old reference.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm gonna move on to my next one. I pressed my ear against the rock. It seemed to be getting even warmer now. I heard the faint sound of Margaret on the other side of the rock. She was screaming. No, I said. No. I began running haphazardly into the walls around me. With dawning realization came a wave of sheer horror. there was no entrance. There was no exit. Only these four corners and me. I will give this story. So again, I said earlier, like the story does have an issue, like kind of early on, of like not really explaining the cave because of like not giving a lot of details about the cave, even though I feel like with the lighting it should. However, the story as it goes on, it also does kind of capture the fear of being of claustrophobia and being stuck in a cave. So I'll give it that credit. Like as it goes on, like it's like like it does capture that in the writing of being of getting lost in a cave system. And I do like the idea of the cave space changing itself to entrap its victims. So, and I'm just going to follow that up with my last quote and bunch of comments. There, in the last light of my flashlight, was the appetizer. The spotlight shone on a hand whose nails were painted red, and I screamed in agony as I watched God's mouth chew its latest meal. So, if you want a shorter version of Ted the Caver, this is probably it, and even gives you a clear ending.
Well, now we don't have to do the recording, Mikey.
No!
Yay!
That's what we stopped on.
I know it's the one you guys stopped on for our Patreon episodes. But you guys should definitely go back and do that.
Yeah, we need to at some point.
And like, so we, don't like, so we have, that content for our patrons. But yeah, caves that aren't caves is nothing new in horror fiction. Like not even outside of creepypasta. Like in horror fiction, like there's Into the Borderlands, or like the white worm, hell, like the Sarlacc pit in Star Wars, or not the Sarlacc pit, the asteroid scene in Star Wars. But I have to admit, I like the idea of simply the cave itself eating someone, and like the rock formations, because mostly in writing and in horror fiction that has caves as like not a cave, it's some kind of beast, or it's like a great worm that the victims have just found themselves trapped inside and digested, thinking that the mouth was a cave. So, and that might be the case here. Like that, this might have just been some kind of organism that has camouflaged itself as a cave. But the way it's described, like, feels more like it's the earth itself changing and acting as a creature. And I think that's really cool as a plus for the story, because I don't think we see enough elemental horror, like horror with like an elemental creature, like the earth or like something like that. So I'm definitely pro for that. Like if that is the case, if that is in fact what God's mouth is, it's like the earth itself is eating people. I like that, because that's also plays on the horror of caving itself too. Because in caving, like people get stuck, like in real life, like people have gotten stuck and died of suffocation and not being and entrapment. Yeah, like just by trying to squeeze through a tight space that they thought they could make, but then as soon as they like suck in and try and get through, and then they can't suck out again, so they die of like suffocation. Like there's a reason why like so many cave systems end up having like warning signs on them, because people are stupid and go in them because of thrills and end up dying. And then to throw in the supernatural element of like, well, the cave itself is actually going to eat you, like grind you into a nourishment for itself. That I think is a really cool place to explore in a horror fiction story, because it plays on that fear of getting stuck in a cave. Now, I know for some reason I've decided to toss this into the very front of the story, or the very back of my notes, but this is at the very front of the story. I think the in media res intro to this story could be cleaner. Maybe properly establish Nathan and Margaret's relationship status. Like we do.
And like,
we do
of course, you would freaking say that.
What? No, I just
because you know what I think about the start. I don't have a problem with it.
Are you kidding me? I don't like. I don't have. Like, it's not like a huge problem, because we do ultimately learn who and why they're out there, or who these people are and why they're out here and all that stuff. But I kind of wish, we had gotten to know them a little bit more to ramp up the doom creep. Like, get to know them a little bit so that it feels that much more impactful when they die, like in the horror story.
And like my whole point in regards to not knowing their relationship status and stuff like that is like it doesn't really matter at all to the outcome of the story, like whether or not they were friends, siblings, girlfriend, whether or not they were married, it does not change anything.
No, they are meant to be food for the story, for the story and for the creepypasta and for the cave. So I know, I get it. It's basically, but like again, like I think it might. My take on it is like, it's basically just like slasher movie fodder. Like that's what they're. This is, you know what this is. This is the opening kill scene of a bigger story or a bigger movie. That's what it felt. I think that's what it felt like to me. Which is hilarious that we both have the How do we do this? How do we?
Just
have
always happens.
Yeah, like how do we have the most like? Because I was like picturing you were going to be on my side with this. Because
it's media res. Gamer fucking hates media res.
I mean, you do have a recorded record of you like not enjoying those like in media res sometimes. So
yeah, but only when it makes me stumble over the story because of it. This one doesn't, because it doesn't really matter, because they're just food. Like we don't need to learn much about them because it's a short story. They're in and done.
All right, yeah, fair. And
there's no important backstory stuff that we're missing.
Yeah, that's true. And again, like it is a short and easy read, and it encapsulates what it's trying to do, which is to give to present this creepy scenario. So it's the bare bones of what a creepypasta should be, in terms of like.
It may also have been because like I woke up this morning, I'm like, shit, I need to read the story. It's like, media res, okay, whatever, fuck it, let's keep going.
I mean, yeah, and that's also like it's a valid view on it, because like some people was like, oh, like even just like not the fact that like somebody has to read this for a show and discuss it with their friends, but like you're just like, again, like picture like the like just browsing through creepypasta wiki at like 3 a.m. or like 6 a.m. Or like maybe this is like maybe your morning ritual is to read creepypastas. So like it's a quick and easy read. So and it has a cool little creepy concept. So no, I can see your point of view. That is part of my final thoughts, honestly. But it also related to what we were talking about here. So
yes.
But yeah, that's my actual thought. My final actual thought is just like, the media res. I mean, it's not bad. It's just I felt it could have been cleaned up a little bit more, but apparently not. according to other opinions on the show, that's fine.
You're just really invested in these characters. You wanted to know their.
I did kind of want. I want to know a little bit more about these characters. Other like I want to know more about them before they die. I want it to be more. I want to feel something when they die. Damn it. Yeah. So Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. So I have a quote here is the first thing. You ready? I asked. She was finally standing straight up. She nodded. I clapped a friendly hand to her back and pushed. Sorry, that's where I thought it was going.
She fell on her face.
The actual
it's like a fail. It's like a save your life gone wrong.
Yeah.
You guys remember that? You guys do that as kids? Like push somebody and then like grab them right before a ledge. It's like save your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one who tortured my siblings with that, or who got tortured by my siblings with that.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the actual line is, I clapped a friendly hand to her back and we walked into God's mouth. But it just, when I read that, it's like perfect opportunity for push.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be out of character for him.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like even like at this point, we're starting to kind of get the vibe of Nathan's like attitude, or at least their personality.
And then the other, well, it's been brought up before with all the lack of supplies and gear And the biggest question that comes to mind is, why doesn't Margaret have her own flashlight?
Yeah,
because she wasn't even supposed to be here. She wanted to go to the beach.
She wanted to go to the beach. She didn't want to, yeah, exactly. I'm surprised she didn't have a coat. She didn't have a backpack full of any kind of like trail rations or anything. He had to give her a bottle of water. It seemed like he had all of the supplies, and the all those supplies were like pittance. What this reminds me of? It's that rake. That short film of the rake that kind of that is linked to the rake story. It kind of reminds me of that movie or that little short film where the guys are planning on going camping out into these woods to go look for something, and they go to a Dollar Tree and get provisions from there.
At least and they have provisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. They got provisions. I do in quotes. A jar of a jar of peanut butter and white bread and no name white bread that they just dip in the peanut butter.
Oh, is that?
That's what they did.
I knew. Oh my god!
At least they had a tent, but at least they also had a tent.
Yeah,
and one flashlight, I think, at least. So but yeah, it was ridiculous how unprepared these kids. I remember us watching, me and Mikey, and the Visionary, our friend from the Hachichaku-sama talk episode. I remember we watched this, and the Visionary is a pretty campy guy. He likes to go camping and stuff like that. He was in Scouts a lot, and yeah, we watched that with him, and he was just like, "This is the most these guys are so fucking unprepared." What are they doing?
The wrong things.
Yeah, all the wrong things. You don't even need to have the rake in that story for things to go bad.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's the same situation. You don't even need the cave to be a monster for these these kids. This can literally just be a mundane cave that eats that they just get trapped in forever.
I mean, there's a solid point to put out that that's possibly just what happened.
That is,
they got lost, and then he went nuts, and because of claustrophobia and stuff, he was feeling like the walls were coming in on him, and then he blacked out.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah, maybe it's sort of a thrill-seeking thing for him. That's why he likes doing spelunking, because it's he's kind of he went to the Mammoth Caves, and that's a pretty controlled. Those are tours. Those aren't really you go in there. You can go in there alone, but generally it's more of a kind of a touristy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he thought, oh man, I could do this. I got this. I love doing this now. I love getting that adrenaline pumping because of the fear of being in a cave and stuff. And then he gets in there. Oh no, I've made a horrible mistake. It's not just Margaret doing that. It's suddenly him.
Yeah, he's just not audibly doing it.
Yeah. No, to mundanify this, it could definitely just be basically their fears getting the better of him and manifesting in his it could be all psychological. But yeah, Mikey, sorry.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go into my next portion here that basically poses the question of, is Nathan actually insane and inside an insane asylum?
Oh, wow.
Whoa, okay, you've gone full Fight Club.
You went way further than even I did.
Yeah, you've gone full Shutter Island. It's oh man, okay.
Well, so we have certain clues.
Do we? Okay, let's hear them.
Yeah. So, in the corner of the cave's maw, where I had been thwarted so many times already, I heard a noise. It sounded like muffled static from a television.
I know where you're going.
Fuck. Sorry, hang on. I'm just gonna repeat that and just play it while you're doing.
Oh, okay.
just like the conspiracy tune starts playing.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit! Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. And then continuing on, I heard the faint sounds of Margaret on the other side of the rock. She was screaming. So
the other wall, like the other cell.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And like the walls are closing in on him, and like he sees like
he's feeling around. He can only feel 4 walls of 4 corners. That's weird.
Yeah, that's my next thing here. Is that I began running haphazardly into the walls around me, with dawning realization of a wave of sheer horror. There was no entrance. There was no exit. Only these 4 corners and me. So he's inside a padded cell.
And then like the hand that he sees, like that he's envisioning is Margaret's hand, is actually just like the attendee's hand putting food into his cell.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible.
Holy shit. The greatest cave of all, the cave of the mind. It's truly the darkest cave of all, the mind, the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Holy shit. Like, Mikey, how do you do this? How do you make a story so much better one episode and then just tear down the fabric of reality and like all that is good in another? How
That's
do you
his
do
objective
it?
every recording. He either has to make the story better or completely ruin it.
Yeah. Wow.
To fill one of those criterias.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Such a beautifully terrible mind.
He do.
Wow. Okay. Well, Gamer, you're up. Hope you can.
Cool. I love following Mikey.
You follow up with that.
Yeah. Now that the audience is warmed up, here I go. So, my first note is on like the start of it, where it's I hopped and popped under my breath as I stared at God's mouth. Felt like the big bad wolf, ready to interrupt the 3 innocent little pigs as they hurriedly fortified their makeshift homes. So I don't recall the 3 little pigs making their homes in a cave like the story implies. However, I get that he's saying it because he's huffing and puffing, but still.
Yeah, it's inner monologue.
It's weird. I guess it gets you in the mind of this weird character from the get-go.
Yeah.
He's not really focused on anything specific.
Mm-hmm.
She was a couple feet down the hill from the entrance of the cave, holding a walking stick close to her petite breasts. So, right from the get-go, it's getting kind of skeevy vibes here.
Yeah, you have the next quote of them. Give me the damn water bottle, she said, exasperated. The open bottle met her lips, and for a moment I felt peaceful in a way, watching her drink the water. Actually, step back. The peaceful comment. The peaceful comment was more of a feeling that was sort of hard to put my finger on or give a name, but I could settle for a nice content. Content seems to be one of those words that manifests itself when natural human words seem to fail. Again, an utter cliche, but it felt good to feel a strange, mixed up sort of happy for once. It's like that entire paragraph to me like sounded like really kind of like sensual for some reason. Like he was like,
yeah, it's like she's drinking the water in slow motion.
Exactly, yeah, like that.
And like the wind is blowing her hair.
Exactly, that scene in movies when they're trying to like encapsulate the beauty of a woman, and it's like this seems really kind of like, man, you are like really over sexualizing your friend here, like or your spouse or your partner maybe.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of didn't cringe, but like I kind of like winced a bit when you said like sister earlier, that it could be a sister. It's like, nope.
Yeah,
that's a little too weird and dark.
I mean, I don't know where they're from. I don't know how they do things. You know.
I mean, he mentions Mammoth Cave.
Boy.
I'm not going to go there with the redneck stuff. Like I have too many friends down in Appalachia. I'm not going to go that route. So. I respect that. Yes, but I respect my friends too much. So,
yeah, anyways,
yes.
Yes. Continuing on from that, due to how tired she is from the walk, the visual that we got at the start with her holding the walking stick, it's kind of not the way I expected it. Because the way I first saw it when I read it was basically Nair turned back, because he's only Nair at this point, to look at Margaret, and she's like standing tall, like holding the walking stick close to herself, almost like a guard in front of herself, but not tired or nothing. Like she's just standing there.
Yeah.
And then she walks up the short hill to get to the mouth of the cave, and she's like, like breathing hard, barely able to breathe.
Yeah, see, I pictured like keeping it close to herself, like basically like she's like holding it, like using it as a support, like as she's walking, because she's been walking for days or like walking for hours.
If that was the case, you wouldn't be holding it close to yourself. You'd be keeping it a little bit ahead to brace yourself on it. The closer it is to you, the less you're actually using it to support yourself.
I guess I don't know. Maybe I just like fabricated shotgun.
Yeah,
where it's
possibly.
just like I just envision like I just took it a different way. Like after like I got to like a couple other sentences, I just kind of built up the thing of like she's just like using it as a support, like holding it close to herself, like all right, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, regardless, for me, the way I saw it first, she wasn't tired, and then she walked up a small hill, and then she just ran a marathon. So that description of her being super tired should have been her at the bottom, and then like she had to walk up the hill to get the water.
That's fair, yeah. I mean, maybe she smokes. Maybe it wasn't like just a small hill, but like and it's been even ground up to this point, and then she had to like climb up a hill, and it's like, oh god.
Maybe. But anyways, moving on from there.
Yeah.
God's Mouth Cave. Keep out. What a tired cliche is what he reads and then says.
Yeah.
So is that a cliche? Like it could be an honest warning due to the cave being prone to cave-ins, or simply because it's owned by someone.
I can see why he says it's a cliche, because again, like that is sort of a cliche of horror. This is almost like a meta commentary on the story, because that's like literally a cliche in horror fiction, where like a cave that says keep out and people are about to go into the cave. Like, yeah, no, I it's weird that he's saying it like in context, because it's like he's just for some reason genre savvy.
I guess.
Even though
so he's not
also
saying that the
clueless.
sign being there is cliche. He's saying that them going into the cave with a sign like this is cliche.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense, but it doesn't say that.
I know, but it's between the lines, gamer.
I read the words that are there. If I want to write my own words in there, I'll write my own damn story.
See, like I think in the big brain theory. No, kidding.
Well, I use the tiny brain.
It's fine. I'm joking, honestly.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Finally, I began to walk. I didn't hear Margaret follow, but I kept moving forward. So, at this point, this is like strike 3 or 4 of Nathan just being an asshole. Like, I don't think I've been on board for having a narrator get killed so quickly as this story.
Yeah, he's definitely that guy in horror.
Like, right before they even got in the cave, I'm like, oh, this guy's such a skeevy douchebag.
It's like, why are we? Oh, damn, he's the narrator, so he's not going to die first.
No, he ain't. I mean, it was possible that she would have just ran out of the cave and he could have got murdered. That would have been better, in my opinion. But whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So after getting lost and turning 180, we walked for what seemed to be hours, is the quote.
Yeah.
So I feel like he would have noticed, because it didn't take him hours to walk in and get to the point that he is now. But then he walks for hours in a direction, then eventually he realizes, after hours of walking, that they're going in the wrong way. You figure, be like, okay, really, well, we've been walking for like 10 minutes and we're lost, so I'll walk 10 minutes in this direction and see if we go anywhere.
Yeah, it is weird though. Like they keep walking like farther and farther into the cave, even though like they're trying to find a way out. And it's like, all right, yeah, if I'm walking into a cave and then I realize like I don't know where I'm going and I keep going, it's like, all right, this is not like I'm walking as far, like we haven't turned like off. We haven't. There's been no described like forks in the road or anything like that. Like no side caves or side tunnels. So we're not. I'm not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Therefore, I'm going to turn around and start heading back the other way and just wait and see if we come across the light in the end of the tunnel at the double after we walked like twice the amount of time that we've been walking.
Yeah. And even if Nathan is too dumb, I feel like Margaret would be like, okay, well, we've been walking way longer than it took us to get here in the first place. We should turn around.
Yeah, it does seem like again, maybe it's part of the cave's like entrapment is just like it screws with your perception of the cave. But yeah, otherwise,
it's like a Derpland aura in it.
Oh god, no! This cave is in Derpland.
Yeah,
it's not even. Yeah, like this cave doesn't even have to work hard to get its victims. It literally just put the sign out there saying keep out, knowing full well some assholes are just going to go in because they're idiots. It just set up shop. Like you just see like this little like rock tentacle come out, like hammer a sign next to the mouth, like and just like ah.
It's closed normally, but then as soon as someone gets close, it's like as it opens up.
I really want to run a like Call of Cthulhu or like Fear Itself game that's just like Derpland as Carcosa, or like basically like the unknown state of Derpland. Mm-hmm. Like it's just some weird like creepy state where like everyone is stupid.
Yeah.
And like the monsters are like all like gluttons because they know they can kill off these people because they know nobody like everyone's like super like genre archetype type like they're like dumb police officers, like dumb investigative people, except for the main characters who have just like they've crossed the border into Derpland.
Yeah, they're not from Derpland.
Exactly. Yeah. The players are not Derplanders. Mm-hmm. And so they just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why are these people this stupid?
Yeah.
And then maybe like
the monsters aren't even trying to hide, really.
Yeah, and then like to kind of play on like the corruption of Carcosa sort of angle with like a Call of Cthulhu game or a Fear Itself kind of thing. When they have to make like sanity rolls or stress rolls, that's when you're like, all right, so you can keep your stress, but you have to go along with what's going on, or you can rebel against it. Like you're becoming part of Derpland.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're being accepted by Derpland. And it's like, no. No, I'm being dumber. Idea. I'm becoming a himbo. God, yeah. That's where the himbo and bimbo zombie epidemic happens. Is out of Derpland.
Oh, like when you said himbo, I didn't know what you meant until you also followed it with bimbo. I didn't realize there was a male
himbo
equivalent.
Yeah, himbo is the male equivalent of bimbo. It's like basically big meaty strong man with small brain.
Yeah,
sort of archetype.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I this is a slight tangent. The tangent police are going to be at my door pretty soon. So I'll make this quick. I did actually see somebody posted like, or actually, I think it was Ross Payton from RPPR, tweeted like, himbos and bimbos are like the next generation of zombie, and I was like, yes, I want to see that movie, just Zombo. Where it's just like people turn into like big like people turn into either big buff dudes or like super like just super like dumb like bimbo like kind of like big breasted big assed like women, but they're just zombies.
Would it be Zombo or Zombro?
No, it'd be Zombo because it's for both. Right?
Yeah, true. Because if it's bros, then it's only the jock dudes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. Anyways, that's moving aside. It's like,
yeah, that's not this story.
Yeah, it's not this story. It's that story.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I started again, pointing my flashlight upwards now to see the ceiling above me. So, like multiple times this story, it's been vague whether or not he can see or not see with the flashlight.
Yeah.
And at this point, I just had to make a note, just asking, like, can you see where you're going or not? Because I get so many mixed signals about how truly dark this place is. Like, is the flashlight useless or is it normal darkness? I even after reading the entire story, I don't know.
I'm with you. Like, I definitely felt it at the beginning of the story that there was not enough detail about like what you were seeing, what he was seeing in the cave. Like is this a plot point? Like, is this something we should be looking for? We're gonna get some payoff. Like, and we really don't. It's just sort of subliminal. If there is some kind of like, if it is tied to the story and like the nature of the cave, it's again between the lines. Like it's some kind of like subliminal like hinting. But even I was like, yeah, no, I kind of wished like they had kind of maybe commented on the fact that like this cave is unnaturally dark. Like all we can do is feel, even with the flashlight, all I'm able to do is feel the rock wall next to me to know it's there, even with my fledgling little flashlight. Because the flashlight seems like it gives very sparse details. Like he's able to shine it on the ceiling to see when the ceiling is like getting lower and stuff. But like again, I have to comment that with a flashlight, if we were doing this at night and like the power went out, I'd grab my flashlight and I would suddenly know I would have full detail, or I'd have a fair amount of detail of my room with the flashlight. Like if
even a crappy flashlight illuminates pretty well.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like this guy either has like one of those cheapo like mechanic flashlights that you can get at a dollar store, like for like emergencies with your car, to like look in your engine and stuff. Because but even with that, like you should be able to get a little bit more detail than what's being described, unless it's something supernatural or something to do with the cave itself.
Mm-hmm.
But
also, if this is in a more modern time, smartphone flashlights are really good.
Yeah,
they're pretty legit.
Like, and it would basically like he wouldn't be able to see super far away, but he'd be able to see like around him.
Yeah,
because the way the way the dimensions of this cave are kind of vaguely brought up, it seems like it's not a terribly big. It's a cave that you could easily walk in without having to like duck your head until like it starts lowering. So it's not like it's not one of those like super tight small caves that like people have to crawl through and stuff. It's just I feel like there should definitely be more descriptor for the cave surroundings surrounding them, or explain why they can't see everything.
Well, part of it is because the way that I viewed the cave was it goes on further than their flashlight can see in all directions. Like I'm pretty sure Strip says that. Like looking left and right, you don't see the left and right walls when they got in. It just went on blackness forever. But
then they're next to a wall using it to guide them.
Yes, because when they got in there, the cave is big enough that you can't see the edges with the flashlight. So it was a huge, wide room. But if you walk to one way, you will eventually find the wall.
Okay.
But it's a massive room.
Narrow.
Like it's very wide.
And then it narrows. Yes. What I'm guessing is it narrows as it goes deeper.
Yeah. Until it gets into like the trap section, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. After they have a little fight, it says, I let go of Margaret's hand and began feverishly feeling my way along the walls. And then she says, no, Nathan, I heard her shout. I kept going. So then, just a quick note of me just going, dude, you're just the worst.
Yeah, no, like, you're
abandoning her in there.
You have officially hit one of those cliches that you were scoffing at earlier. You are that horror movie cliche now. No, John, you are the demons.
Like he's been getting progressively worse and worse, but at this point, it's just that you were not savable. Like,
you deserve no back from your fate. Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of, I sat there for hours waiting for death. My flashlight was becoming dim and blinking. Finally, I felt the soft touch of the rocky walls pressing against my back. I began to cry and lay on the ground. So, two things. Well, three things. Because first off, I know you mentioned this, but I didn't chime in with all my stuff. It's sort of unrelated to what you're talking about at this point.
Sorry.
Then, so first off, he's sitting there, and then he feels a wall, like, touch him in the back. And when I first thought of that, I'm like, shouldn't he be feeling all of them touch him at the same time? But then I realized the odds of him sitting in the exact middle of the square are slim to nil.
Yeah.
But even so, secondly, like, are the walls moving silently? Did he hear it get closer and closer? It's just all of a sudden, it's just, oh, it's there. I better lay down.
God, that's even more terrifying to me. Actually, like the fact that like these walls, these cave walls that should be grinding or like moaning or like creaking because of like the cave, like because of the way the rocks thing. The fact that they're silently doing it is actually even more terrifying to me. It's like sort of like quantum, like it's quantumly locked. It's like when you're not looking at it, it's moving.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Like that's even more terrifying because like, how do you like if I was to make this like put this into a role playing game again, Call of Cthulhu or something like that? I'd definitely make you guys like, all right, no perception checks, roll reflex to duck out of the way as the wall just slams like just silently like closes like where you were, and if you don't pass that reflex, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of like that idea of just like this like silent cave killer.
Pretty much. However, in the actual story itself, I don't believe it's meant to be silent. It's just it's not described very well on how the sound is done, because when he listens to the wall, he hears her screaming on the other side and the sound of static. What does the sound of static also sound like? Rocks sliding on each other.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think that's what that's meant to be. Like when he's listening to the wall was like very slowly moving, or it's maybe that wall stopped moving, but there's other walls on the other side that were moving, crushing her, and that's what he was hearing.
Yeah. No, for
and
sure.
then when he got away from the wall, that wall started moving towards him again. However, there's no mention of him hearing the sound after that. So I feel like when he was sitting there on the ground, he should have been hearing like the sound of static louder and louder until it touched him on the back.
Or even feel like a vibration, because like especially since he's lying on the ground, you're going to hear vibrations of like things moving.
Yes.
Or yeah, like the way I could like maybe fix this in a way, but to keep it the way it is, like keep it quiet and stuff, is that like the static, like have like a sentence like right before like all this starts happening is like where the static became so kind of innocuous for like the hours he was trapped in that room that he lost all sense of hearing. Like maybe it suddenly just became it all became like suddenly just like basically the white noise canceled out any kind of noise to him.
Yeah.
So like suddenly everything became quiet, and he just like lost his hearing.
Mm-hmm. That's the way to do it for sure. Then moving on to my last one. The rocks were piercing my skin now and blood dripping from all sides. There in the last light of my flashlight was the appetizer, spotlight showing on a hand where nails were painted red, and I screamed in agony as I watched the god's mouth chew its latest meal. So, if he laid down and then the wall came up to him, wouldn't it be like sliding him along the floor?
Yeah, and he just doesn't notice.
It's like a cat that's like laying on the floor in the way. And
No,
you're just like,
yeah, exactly. Or like, yeah, I've done that to my dogs where it's just like shit, like I try to get them to move like off of my bed, and I'm just like, no, just like I'm just like pushing them like to one side of the bed. Like, what are you doing? Much. Stop.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like that too.
Also, where did these teeth-like rocks on the walls come from? I was expecting this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I figured it was stalagmites, but yeah, or what did you think it was?
Well, because the wall, like, it didn't say the ceiling was touching them, just the walls were touching them, that's the side.
True. It could just be that like suddenly there's a rock mouth in the wall.
I guess, but it's not explained. But either way, I was expecting this to be basically nature's trash compactor, which personally I think is way scarier than, dare I say, the cliche spike walls that this has.
Yeah, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, like the spikes on both on top and bottom coming down on you. I do think compactors
trap room.
Yeah, like exactly, the anything trap room from any video game. You know the one. Actually, it's the Jill Sandwich. Actually, this is actually more of a, like you'd want it rather to be the Jill Sandwich scenario where it's just a room that's just coming down, like it's crushing down. The Shredder demise from the first TMNT movie.
Yes.
And for TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Adam. Sorry.
Yes. I find that way more horrifying. So even like the visual at the end, the hand, which I'm assuming is Margaret, like that's there, cool. But the tense of it sounds like he was actively watching it chew her. Meanwhile, from the sounds of it, she's already been chewed. She's ABC Margaret. And like he's watching the latest meal, which would be him about to be chewed.
Yeah, I think it could be that either like he's seeing like the remnants of her being chewed up by the wall, or like that last like its latest meal was him. Like that's what that last bit was entailing.
Yeah. But it's saying like I watched God's mouth chew its latest meal.
So in that one, like when I first read that, I figured it was like him watching Margaret's last like the remains of Margaret getting like fully eaten by the wall before he gets eaten.
I guess.
Sort of like he's watching, like seeing the preview of what's to come.
How? Because it was 4 walls that were converging on him. So the only way that body, Margaret's body, was going to be chewed is if he is also being chewed.
I'm not saying it was done well.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be like kind of like to show that like part of the wall has shifted enough that he can see where Margaret got eaten from.
Yeah, I think what
he's
it's meaning,
as it's about to crush on him. Sorry.
Yeah, because it's saying like the flashlight went on there and it showed the appetizer, which was the hand of Margaret and all that, and she's there. So she was already chewed. She's the appetizer, and the latest meal is him, which he's seeing it about to happen. So he's not. I don't know if watched Godsmouth chew its latest meal would be accurate. It might be better to be like as I was about to watch or about to be part of its latest meal.
As I was about to watch God's Mouth eat its, and maybe like to improve, to kind of clarify it more, have it that his legs start getting crushed first, hence why he's agonizingly screaming as he's watching the cave eat him.
Yeah,
like I think it's a slow process, because I mean, again, like Margaret screamed for a while before she stopped.
Yeah. I don't get where the spikes come from on the walls, and the biggest thing I don't get is how Margaret was there, because she was heard screaming on the other side of the trap.
I think it's made to it's made to be assumed that the wall, since the walls we know that the walls change and like move around and stuff, that this cave is just this cave system isn't like a simple tunnel that closes in and closes out. It morphs and changes, like almost like the almost like a the only description I have is a video game reference. The oldest house in Control, where it like shifts like any direction. It's not just like closing in on a tunnel. It like shifts in, and it changes. It makes new tunnels, or it changes completely, like its ceilings and walls and floors.
So, like, if you think of it as two squares beside each other, he was listening between the connection of the two squares.
Yeah.
Then Margaret's square squished down on her while he was sitting in his room doing nothing. Yeah. So then that Margaret square opened back up, and like one of the walls flipped around that still had Margaret on it, and then closed in on his section.
Yeah. So that it could maybe it's somewhat sentient or like sadistic. So it did that to show like what he has to look forward to.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I have a visual of how it could potentially work, I guess that's kind of passable, but man.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's one of my biggest issues with the story, is it needs to be like kind of cleared up a little bit, or cleaned up a little bit on certain things.
As soon as I first saw that, I'm like, but he heard her on the other side of the wall.
I know.
Now she's there for reasons. Yeah, that is the end of my notes.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to our final thoughts segment. So I kind of spoiled it earlier. To me, this story was a little jarring, and it could definitely use some work, as we've kind of been discussing just a moment ago. But it's a short and easy read, and the overall concept is cool and creepy. Like, again, cave horror is definitely a worthy subgenre of creepypasta and horror fiction in general. Hence why people like Ted the Caver, and like The Descent, and insert other horror that deals with the caves. And again, I like the idea of this, like the cave itself being the monster, and not just a monster hiding in a cave that like opens its mouth open, and the person thinks that they're walking into a cave, but they're really walking into the gullet of a creature. And that, again, that could be what's happening here. It's just like it's more well camouflaged to be a cave, or it is the cave itself. Regardless, because of like how kind of jarring some parts of it, and how like how some of the details need to be kind of fleshed out a little bit more in the story, I'm only going to partially recommend it, because I do like the story, and it was kind of in front of me. I read it, I enjoyed most of it, and it's over. So it's a good like quick read, if you want something like a quick spooky thing. So I partially recommend. Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right. Well, when I initially read this, the whole scenario of Margaret being already in the cave and starting the complaining just like made me think, well, it's too late to complain.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you know that happens. Like, people stay quiet until like the last minute, and then they start bitching about things.
But the thing is, this seems like a planned trip, because it talks about, he's been to the Mammoth Caves and whatever, and they do this planned trip to go to this cave, end of going to the beach.
Yeah.
Like she walked all the way out there for the purpose of going in a cave with him.
Yeah, like I get that. Again, people do that in reality. Like, people are like kind of submissive. If their spouse or if their significant other is more like outwardly like kind of dominant, or like or outwardly like kind of not aggressive, but like, you know what I mean, like more
controlling.
Like more controlling. Yeah, like it's like that could be a good or a bad thing sometimes. And yeah, like you don't like, people. It's like, all right, I'll just go with it because it'll make him happy. And then when you get out there, that's when you you really don't want to. You realize you really don't want to be there, and that's when you start complaining. And that's how we get like arguments that we get. And again, like, the argument seemed rather realistic. Like, I've seen, or at least like from movies and from TV shows, and even from when I've encountered this kind of argument in with couples and stuff like that. It seems like a very realistic kind of argument that would happen.
Well,
because when people don't agree, or they're not communicating properly, even prior, like, again, like you're saying, like, oh, this was a full planned out thing. Yeah, people, like, somebody could like plan this out for their like with and like their significant other will be like agreeing to it up to a point, just to like try and make like maybe this won't be so bad, maybe this will be fun, and then they get out there, it's like, I fucking hate this. Why did I say anything about this? Like, I get, like, I find it relatively relatable, or at least familiar.
Well, you say that, but more believable would have been the question, "Where's my flashlight?"
Oh yeah, no, like... yeah, that's where the story drops the ball, is the preparedness of these two people.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, honey, can you pass me my flashlight? Ooh, I'm the only one with the flashlight, dear. It's like, what? Why?
Because I'm the boss. I'm the leader. You gotta follow me.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. No. It's like, yeah. It's definitely not. I'm not like. It's not a healthy relationship these people were in before this happened. That much is clear.
Yeah, Margaret's probably like, oh, thank God, the sweet release of death.
Yeah. Oh Lord, why have you forsaken?
Yeah, in like one shot, it shows Nathan. He's like, no, Margaret, she's gonna be so sad without me. As he dies, Margaret, she's in her chamber about to die. She's like, thank God he's dead, and now I'm gonna be dead too. Cool.
See ya.
I don't have to deal with him anymore.
Yeah. Thank God, I'll see you in hell, Nathan.
You're gonna get an earful when we get down there.
With my last breath, I curse Nathan.
Yeah. So continuing on, I'm only gonna give this a partial recommendation on the low end, because of all its flaws.
Yeah.
But then, if you catch all the subtle hints that Nathan's insane, it's a full recommendation.
Like, if there was a a last minute like paragraph added in where it was like a doctor looking, I was like, oh, this he seemed to have died of cardiac arrest from some kind of like maybe we upped his dosage too high or something. It's like, what? Like,
yeah, even just a single line.
Yeah. The doctor looked in and called the coroner, like called for a nurse.
Or just like, as it goes black, there's like an alarm that goes off.
Yeah.
And then you hear a door open.
Yep.
Like, even something as subtle as that.
Oh, it would be so good. Oh, fuck. Yeah, no, 100%. That would definitely be my recommendation. Like, that's my recommendation for the story, is like just add that extra line, and the story becomes a completely. It rejuvenates the story into a degree.
Yeah, because it makes you rethink about everything that just happened.
Exactly.
Like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's a good recommendation and partial recommendation. Gamer.
So the best I can give it is a partial recommend as well, but only based on the concept of the cave being a thing that eats people, and only if that was in a more trash compactory way, because the spike walls are a little too bleh.
They've been done to death.
Yeah, for sure. Pun intended, I guess. But the execution of the story isn't the way I personally would have liked to read it. Ironically, it's just too hard to see, basically. As in, it's too hard to see if it's too hard to see or not. You know?
Yes. That honestly, that's 100% one of my big issues at the beginning of the story.
Yeah. Like, there's important features that need to be explained. Things Nathan would have known, like, are the walls making a sound when they move? Are the 4 walls covered in spikes, even though he said they weren't before because he was just running his hand along them normally? Like, he said he's bleeding from bumping into them, but is that because, like,
have they suddenly grown teeth? Have they suddenly gone stucco? Like, where it's like kind of like that drippy, that spiky drippy texture?
I thought he's bleeding just because, like, bumping into walls, like, he eventually scratched himself, but not because of, like, a puncture. If there was a puncture, he would have noticed it and be like, shit, I just stabbed myself,
Yeah, is he just cheese gratering himself as he, like, bumps into the walls?
Yeah, that's what I assumed. But, like, again, as I said, the idea I'll partially recommend, but the execution I can't recommend. It's too dark.
Yeah. I think that's honestly, like, I think you nailed like why we like why we're all giving it a partial recommendation is like it has a cool idea behind it. The execution kind of falls flat.
Mm-hmm.
Even if like like I said, it is a short and easy read, but the concept is really what kind of keeps it from like it keeps it afloat as it's drowning.
Pretty much.
And even that is starting to sink. So
I like our alternative concepts are coming up with, like Mikey's Insane Asylum, and the idea I had where they just got lost. He couldn't find her, and then he just went nuts in the cave and was imagining it closing in on him due to claustrophobia, and then he just died from starvation, and neither of them found their way out.
And then we get another sentence or paragraph at the very end where Margaret is found by a search and rescue crew, or like they go into they start heading toward the cave after she found her way out and wandered out.
Yes, that's the better way.
Yeah, Margaret survived. Margaret was the final girl in this scenario. And yeah, like that, and then maybe you could even have a sort of like, is it the cave creepy, or is it or was it all with Nathan's head as like some search and rescue crew starts heading into the cave and just leave it as the cave looms over the search and rescue crew heading in.
Oh yeah, they might need to send a search and rescue crew to find the search and rescue crew.
Exactly. It's like, send more paramedics, send more police officers. I love fucking Return of the Living Dead. But yeah, definitely I think honestly, it's just roundhouse partial recommendations because the core concept's cool. It's just the execution's not great, except for but all you need is like a couple of nudges and it could be really good. But yeah, that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below. This gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube. I'd say Tumblr, but I really have not been keeping up on Tumblr.
That's fair.
If you'd like to talk to us, we're on Twitter. Mikey's at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow without that W because his name is very long. And
it's got to be though.
Yes. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also leave us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky, cryptid, sighting things, what have you. Let us know we'll add them to the list. We'll read them. We'll discuss them. We'll talk about them. If you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, extra content, early access. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because, well, without your listenership, we wouldn't have much of a show, because it'd be like speaking into the void, into the inky blackness of God's mouth.
Yeah, there you go.
And without your authorship, without your stories that you post and share online, we really wouldn't have much of a show, because we wouldn't have anything to talk about, and that'd be sad. Until next time, I've been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.